Bristol is a unique city. It's a place where after slave trade was abolished, a lot of the black slaves, they settled right there in Bristol. And so because they got a port. And again, I didn't know much about the history of Bristol. I did hear that they had lots of musicians, and so I was excited about that. And then when I heard that they had all these black people that had come into Bristol, I thought, hey, that's a church. Black folks respond to the gospel. You know, that's what I was thinking. But when I got there, my mind was a little bit skewed because when I went to spy out the land, that day, it was a Saturday, I didn't see one black person all the time. I was so discouraged. I remember driving back to London, just so discouraged, like, God, man, maybe we missed God. Is this you? Should we go to this city? Where are the black people? And then God really started to convict me and said, I don't save by color. I don't save by ethnicity. The blood of Jesus saves all. It doesn't matter whether you're Hispanic, whether you're white, whether you're Asian, it doesn't matter if you're Oriental. God can save. And so I went back with a renewed mind and started pioneering. And it was interesting that the first batch of converts I had were all white. All these white people. It's like God really does have a sense of humor. My best disciple was a white guy, Paul Bullough. Pastor Carnegie used to call him the Great White Hope. I remember him coming in and getting saved. And those were the early days, you know, of the small beginnings. You know, like how the Bible says, don't despise the day of small beginnings. You know, you're talking about the inception of stuff. It doesn't always come out. It doesn't start out big. It's never elaborate. You start off with little things, and that's one of the things I would always say to men, and something I'm constantly teaching my sons. That's the latest hot lesson that I'm teaching my sons, and that is focus on little things. Make little things important. You make little things important, you can have big things. That's why Jesus said, "He that's faithful in that which is least is faithful in also which is much." And so I started working the streets, hitting hard, door knocking. I remember Pastor Carnegie said to me, he said, witness to everything that moves. I'd pull my car over if I saw a bunch of young men, and I would just, fires, I was always ready, and God began to give us favor. The church started growing, and in 6 months we were running 50 people, and things just started really to burst through, and we were having great dominion in that city. The problem is, you know, when I go to a conference and I testify, I never share the demonic aspect of pioneering. I just have never done that. It's just not in my nature. I know we've got disciples, we've got young pastors, people who want to do something for God, who've been envisioned in conference, and I don't want to stand up there and spew out all the negative things that the devil's doing in my city and discourage people. So I've always focused on the positive things that God's doing. If you get to know me personally, I could share some of the nightmares that happened, but I would always give victory reports. You know what a victory report is? It's a victory report. I'm going to give, this is what God did. This is what God's doing in this city. The one person got saved in the whole year. Praise God. They're established. They're filled with the Holy, and everyone would get all excited. And I would wrestle the devil on my own. I remember being here, actually, after a Bible conference in Tucson. I came here. I preached here probably the Sunday night service. Pastor Stevens announced me. And he said, yeah, Peter, I don't know if some of you would have been here would remember, yeah, he's running about 80 people now, and that's when we had, you know, God had really given us some favor with that. He's running 80 people. When he gets back, he's going to baptize about 40 people or so, 36 people. When I got back to my city, you probably never heard this story, 40 people had left church. It was one of the darkest days in the ministry. Something that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't ready for it. I'm like, it took me by surprise. Because a lady in church, Jackie Davis, God bless her soul, she found something on the internet, and got all these people together, and all our new converts that were going to be getting baptized. Our song leader at the time, well, he became the song leader later on, got them all into a room, and said, the church is a cult. Ajala is a cult leader. We all need to get up out of here. And I came back to half the size of the church that I left a week earlier. And I remember my best disciple turning against me at that point. never stood up in conference and testified about any of this. These were just my own personal battles, you know, in the ministry, rebellion within the church, people turning against me. My main guy at the time, he said, yeah, he started snapping. I'm like, what is wrong with you? He said, yeah, who do you think you are anyway? When you ask me to do things, you snap your fingers. Like, I didn't even realize. Like, I was like, hey, could you get that? I'd be like, oh man, I need to stop snapping my fingers. You know, and God helped us with that relationship, and he went on to do well. But you know, I had to just do what David did. The Bible says that David, he was out tending the sheep, and a bear came, a lion came, but nobody knew about that until he had to face Goliath. See, all we hear of these great victories, but never really understand and realize that there were secret battles. You all have to fight secret, we all have to fight secret battles and overcome. We got to win them. And so we just, God bless us in that building. You heard the testimony when I came in January. I shared about that miracle building. And so we began this great ministry. God began to flourish. The church started to flourish, rather. God began to bring in young men. Women were getting saved. Men were getting married. And we were red hot ready to start planting churches. We've been open 3 years and 11 months. We were running 120 people at this point. We had a free building. We had tens of thousands in the bank. I mean, we were so excited about what God was going to do. Then I got that phone call. You know, Pastor Carnegie called me. And he said, there's an opening in Namibia, Southern Africa. They don't have a pastor. The pastor was there for 5 years, Steve Anderson, and he had to leave, I think, immigration issues. So he had to take his family and had to leave the country. They need a pastor. Would you be willing to go? So I got right on an airplane. I flew into Namibia the first 2 weeks. You know, just kind of scoping out the land, got a house, got myself situated. And I preached in the church for 2 weeks straight. And I wasn't feeling it. You ever done something you don't feel? I mean, you know, I got the house, I got 70 people in church. Things are looking good. But I just didn't really feel it. Everything in me didn't want to do it. I was reluctant in my heart, but I was willing in my action. And I remember just going back to London, getting my family, or Bristol at the time, and flying my family in. And so when we started that ministry, I hated every moment of it. I really didn't like the people. People were so irritating. When they shake your hand, they don't let go. Shake your hand, and they just keep. I mean, everything in the city was slow. Like, I'm talking about slow motion. The stores on a Saturday would shut at 1 p.m. I mean, what kind of a life is that? I have my computer. I'm trying to connect internet. It's taking forever. You know the dial-up modems. You still, I'm having issues with it. Somebody suggested just get yourself a satellite dish. You'll get Wi-Fi, high-speed Wi-Fi. I went and got myself a dish. I paid all this money for it, and it was slower than the dial-up. I said, you have to be kidding now. So I took it back and tried to get a reimbursement. Welcome to Africa. There's no reimbursement. They didn't give me a thing. I'm like, man, this is, so I had to disconnect the dish, reconnect that dial-up. And I'm telling you, every moment for that first 5 or 6 weeks was like hell on earth for me. And then I fell in love with people. I don't know what happened. It's just, they just became like the love of my life. The people of Namibia and Namibians in general. And as I began to minister in that church and God began to move, I remember our first baptism. We baptized 67 people in an outdoor pool. It took me 2 hours to do it. People came to the service that Sunday unprepared for the baptism. They didn't know about it. They were just visitors. They got baptized in this outdoor pool, and they just walked home wet. They just got saved. I want to get saved. I want to get baptized. Whatever you guys are about, we want this. I'm thinking, God, I'm right. I mean, at this point, I'm still not connecting all the dots with what God's doing. And I just realized that we had all these people, at least 20 people per service were getting saved. And so I called my pastor. I said, listen, we need more chairs. He sent me money. I bought 100 new chairs that filled up. And in 4 months, we were running over 250 people. God just, it was a visitation of God. It was completely out of our control. And then we got we got threat phone calls from a lot of these teenagers that were getting saved. Their parents were upset. A lot of them had political connections. And they threatened to come down to our home with guns. One time I was out, my wife standing there threatening we would come with a gun. You guys, man, our kids are Lutherans. You can't do this. And so I remember we were praying about it, the church was praying about it. And one of the ladies that was coming said that she had a connection in the home office to help us get our work permits. But all that didn't work. We got thrown out of the country. So they came to the church Sunday night. They stopped the service. They wouldn't let me preach. They arrested me, escorted me home. They seized our passports. They gave us 7 days to leave the country. The church was crying. People started to fast. They started praying. And so we pretty much were going to just go back because it didn't work out. Got on a plane, flew back to England. I desperately wanted to go back. And my pastor said, well, Peter, if you can get your work permit in 30 days, you can go back. If you can't, if you don't rather, then you need to take over the church because I'm going back to Tucson. So I was stuck. So we're praying about this. The church is praying. Everyone's really seeking God over this. And I got my work permit in 60 days. So I went to my pastor. Look, I got it in 60 days. He said, no, I told you 30 days. You have to take over. I'm going back. I said, well, can't you let me go back and just have someone else take over, like Jay or something? He said, no, Peter, you're taking over. And I'm going back. You got to give up that dream. So just like I gave up the Bristol dream, I had to give up the Namibian dream. Though I had great dreams and great visions for the nation, I never really saw it through. Just like Bristol, I never was able to plant a church. I never saw the first church planted. After everything God did, I left it. And now the same thing. This church is booming. People are getting saved. They're excited. They can't believe that we just had to leave. And this was an incredible time for us. And so to leave all of that, what God was doing right in the midst, folks, I mean, talking about right in the midst of revival. You're talking about God visiting the nation. And we never saw it. Again, we rooted out, we come back, and we're thrown into the deep end. And I remember, just the vision. I'm taking teams twice a year. We're going back. We're hitting the get hard. And that church now is running about 600 people. I planted 3 more missionaries out there. And we covered the nation entirely. Now we've got about 40 churches in Namibia, and they have their own conference center from one church. And so, but I was never a part of that in the sense of being there to see the guys getting planted out, marriages. I didn't see it. So I came back home. I'm in London. I've taken over. And again, we start working through all the difficulties of taking over your own mother church. You're talking about pastoring your own peers. It's one of the hardest things, one of the most complex things I've ever done in the ministry is to be the pastor of my own peers, people you play soccer with. You slap each other on the back of the head, now you're the pastor. It's like, hey. And so I had a lot of issues. And a lot of it had to do with my own immaturity. I was a young pastor. I'd been pastoring for just under 4 years. And you've taken over a church of almost 300 people that's got 5 churches out on the field. So instantly I'm in a place where I had not developed. I wasn't developed enough for it. And so a lot of issues that I had to deal with, my own personality, my character, my attitudes, the way I reacted and responded to things. And God had to help me through a lot of that. So we had a rebellion, we had a massive rebellion. Over 100 people left church. And again, it was a really dark moment for us in the ministry. But again, we just kept giving our hearts to this God, helped us open the door, a building came through for us. We moved in, we were in that snowing, so we ended up having to leave. But in that period when we were there, we had such a tremendous visitation of God. We had a play that we put on, full production drama. It was called Street Life. I'll never forget it. And so we showed it Friday, and then we had a concert on Saturday, and then the following week another Friday and Saturday. We had 140 people that prayed. The reason why it was so effective was because we were being very relevant. We realized what was happening in the city, the climate of London City at that moment in time. There was a lot of violence amongst the youth. So you had teenagers killing other teenagers. I'm talking about to the extent of breaking into people's homes and stabbing them to death while they're in their own beds sleeping. So we had a lot of crime amongst the teenagers. And I remember speaking with the drama team, we put this play together called Street Life. And in it, we actually had a video clip, a short clip of some of the real people that got killed and that were involved in a lot of that fiasco. We had sort of crowds. I mean, the place was packed out. People were weeping uncontrollably. And just God, this a wind of revival just came, and 140 of them prayed. I didn't have 140 follow workers. So how are we going to follow up on 140? So what I did was I sent out 140 letters inviting them to the Sunday night service, and I kind of changed the structure Sunday night, that one Sunday, where we had our song service, and had some testimonies. We had tables set around the whole building. We're sitting with them one-on-one, two-on-two, just talking with them, answering their questions, praying with them. Special music running in the background, people singing. It was such a dynamic time, light refreshments. We locked 100 of them into our congregation. And that was the year, 2008. Our church grew by 100 people. It was just like a quantum leap. And then God just continued to bless, and the momentum was just building. We couldn't stop it, we couldn't control it. And we hit 500 people. And it was at that point, just right after we started our conference, and then we lost our building. And then it's just the same old thing. We've been going from building to building to building, kind of like the early days. And it reminded me, it took me way back to my discipleship days. When we lost that building, we lost 150 people with it. And I remember the days of Pastor Stevens. You probably heard a lot of stories, but we've had church at his home. We had church in this lady's house, Kay, Sister Kay, we called her. We would be in her living room, a tight little apartment, and the church would be in there, 15, 20 of us. And we'd have our song service, and he would preach to us. One time our building wasn't open. We had to have church in McDonald's. He took a corner in McDonald's. We had a song service. And he stood up, and he preached to us right at McDonald's. And I tell you, one of the things that I really admire about the disciples of our time is not one time did anybody complain about that. Not one time did people say, yeah, what's going on, man, with this church? What's going on with the pastor? Man, we're in somebody's flat, somebody's apartment, we're in McDonald's, we can't get in our building. Hey, what is this? What kind of a kangaroo church is this? Not one time. I can tell you and I can testify about the grace of God. Not one of our friends, my friends, brothers, disciples, ever complained or ever had an issue. There was something that was built into us that, where you could take a licking and keep on ticking. In other words, you've got dark moments, dark seasons, dark hours. You can have a dark month, you can have a dark year. You can have a dark few years. It's like, just keep going. And that was what Pastor Stevens put in us, the resilience. So every time I went through those seasons of darkness and obscurity and confusion, every time I went through them, my mind traveled all the way back to the days of my discipleship. So you don't quit because things get hard. Matter of fact, you're going to experience the best if you make the best of how things turn out. It doesn't matter how things turn out. But if you just make the best of that situation, it's gonna work out good for you, because all things work together for the good of those who love God and now are the called according to His purpose. And so we went through that period, and then we found stability. Eventually found somewhere where the church is at right now, and that's when I went into evangelism. And God has so favored us and so blessed us. And I believe, number one, it has to do with the willingness to do anything. I never really connected that dot until I heard Pastor Carnegie say at our 30th anniversary, when our church had our 30th, Pastor Stevens was there. So he got up and I think someone had asked him something about me, and I was like, what's he going to say? And he said, well, he doesn't recall or remember me ever saying no to anything. And I didn't even realize that. I just, oh, okay. So I'm thinking about it every single time, and even when I wanted to say no. Have you ever wanted to say no? No. I never wanted to say no. You can be real. The same 1,000 times, but you say yes. God, all of heaven gets behind you. And there's such a blessing that comes. I didn't know that until I heard it, from someone else. I never really thought that was what was happening. I was just open to do the will of God. And to focus on little things. And the third thing is, don't get caught up in the negative experiences in ministry. You anticipate that things sometimes aren't going to go the way that you want them to. But right now, I'm in a place where I don't really know what the future holds. I'm evangelizing. But then what? I'm not really doing what I want to do right now. The whole reason why we're here in the United States was because when I went into Pastor Warner's office, he was talking to me about this whole vision about the East Coast. And I got excited. He was asking me if my brother would be interested in it. But I said, well, my brother hasn't really expressed anything. But I guess if you talk to him about it, I'm sure he'll be open. He lived in New York or New Jersey. He worked in New York. And he's in London now. But he said, no, I want someone who's got a burden. I said, well, if that's the case, I got a burden. You can send me. He said, really? I said, yeah. So he works out with Pastor Fred Ruby. He said he'll take over the church in London, and we'll get announced at conference Thursday. This is 2017. I went to talk to my wife about it. She's not feeling it. Her mom is sick. She's old, and just mind battles. I'm like, God, what's going on, man? We've been missionaries. My wife surely wouldn't say no. I'm not getting it. Let's go east. Let's do something for God. New York for Jesus. I was excited, but my wife wasn't. So, I told Pastor Warner, and I said, all right, just let me evangelize in the interim. I'll evangelize. And so I did that from London. You can imagine how sticky that is, to evangelize out of the church. You've been pastoring for 14 years. It would almost be like Pastor Stevens becoming an evangelist out of El Paso. Weird setup, like a strange normal, almost. And so, but finally the doors opened up. I was able to get my whole family and relocate to the United States. And so we're in Tucson right now, and I've started to preach around. But my heart really is to pastor. But maybe not now. Everything is about God's timing. And so these are some of the things that I've had to learn as a disciple, now in my 50s, thinking about all the lessons that I acquired along the way. You got to be ministry requires so much patience. But the great news is that the power of the seed is when something is sown. The Bible says, do not be weary in well-doing, for in due season, if you don't faint, you're going to reap. It is a promise of God. The reaping is going to come. But you can't lose heart. And like the bamboo, the Chinese bamboo, you plant it, you don't see anything the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, nothing comes out of the ground. But in the 5th year, it springs out and grows 3 feet every day. And this is why we have to keep the right attitude. This is one of those things that I focused on more than anything, is I got to keep I got the right heart, the right attitude through it all. You know, it's like these two things. You got success and you have happiness. The funny thing is that people think success leads to happiness, but it's actually the other way around. Happiness is what produces success in a person's life. So your happiness is your state of mind, your own attitude. And when you're happy in every situation, and you keep a right heart and a right attitude in every situation, you're going to succeed. People think, no, it's if I can succeed, if I can have, 250 people, if I can have this great job, if I can get promoted, if I can get the money, then I'll be happy. Excuse me, no. You keep a right attitude in the midst of whatever you're dealing with, and because of your attitude, you're going to succeed. So it's the other way around. So those are some of the things that have kind of kept me, through the years. It's been 20 years now, years of ministry, just over 20. And, just about 19 of those I've been evangelizing. I've been pastoring, and then now, just over a year, I've been evangelizing. And I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to what God's going to do. That second wind is waiting to kick in. I want to pioneer again. I want to start again. I don't mind taking over a church, but really, folks, I want to pioneer. I want to start from scratch. I want to take all the lessons I've learned, failures, mistakes, successes. I want to take all of that history, and I want to apply it and say, God, help me. Let me start. Give me some virgin ground where I can start again. And so my heart's open to do anything. I just wanted to share that. I know there's some men here, perhaps you're going out, some others decided to advise, and others you're taking on a new challenge as far as ministry is concerned. And that in a nutshell, there are lots of other stories and intricacies in all what I just said. I know we've only got 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to open up for some questions in a moment, but I'd like us to just pray. Just take a moment just to talk to God in our hearts right there with your seat. There are numbers of things here that we need to talk about as God prepares us as men for the future. And always remember, God has a future for you. He's taking you somewhere. That's what he's doing with us. He's taking us somewhere. And there are things that we have to learn along the way. There are things that we have to sacrifice. There are things that we have to take on board. There are other things that we have to sever. And God, I want to be able to make little things important. I want to be able to know how to say yes, with the right attitude, keep the right attitude regardless of what I face. To anticipate what's going to happen and trust you all the way. Let's just pray for me. Yes. Father, we give you all the we are so grateful for your will be done, my God. You are sovereign, my God. Thank you, Lord. You are the Father, God. We are represented here. Thank you, my thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. Praise you, my God. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name. Oh, we give you praise in Jesus' name. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes or so. 11 minutes. Questions. I'm going to hand it back over. So anything you want to ask?
Well, what are some things you know now that you wish you knew when you took over a church? Like, was there any major issues you had when you took over your first church?
Oh yeah, like I said, as far as relating to peers as a pastor, and I needed a lot more patience. Like if I could turn back the hands of time, go back, if I could turn the clock back and go back, I would do things a lot differently. With how I reacted and responded. Remember this: if you're taking over a church, you're not actually the pastor yet. You're not a shepherd. You're a hireling in the minds of the people. In our minds, we think we're the shepherd. You're hired. They don't trust you. They don't know you. You don't know them. You've never labored a day in your life for them. And so many times pastors make that mistake. They go in and they try to be the shepherd instead of allowing that transition from their hired me to shepherd. And so if I could go back, yeah, I would be a lot more patient. I'd let a lot of things slip. I wouldn't address everything. You know, I think they say when you first take over a church, sometimes the first year, you know, don't change anything at all. You know, and then you've got to introduce new ideas, but you have to gain the wisdom of God in doing that. If you see that there's a pattern or a system at work that you want to change. You know, that every pastor has his own personality, and many times we pastor our churches through our personalities. You know, some pastors like certain things, other pastors don't. I don't like that. I don't want it like that. I don't like these kind of colors. But other people have, you know, other pastors come in and it's different for them. But there's a culture in every church. That's why I think it was Ernesto Sorelli, I think it was, that went to southern Zambia to teach the Zambians how to grow tomatoes. And so he comes in, they have this massive tomato plantation, and when they're about to harvest, they come in to the plantation and everything's gone, devoured. And because what happened was overnight, some 200 hippopotamuses came out of the river and devoured everything. And so it's like, hey, the whole team of farmers, they went to the Zambians, like, hey, what's going on with the hippos? They said, yeah, that's why we don't have agriculture here in South Zambia. It's like, well, why didn't you say? It's like, well, why didn't you ask? That's what they asked him. So I got a revelation. When you're going into a community, a town, a city, wherever it is, and you want to help the people there, the first thing is to understand their culture, understand who they are, how they're thinking, and just take a step back. Not come in with our new ideas and try and impose them. It's going to be a disaster because the hippopotamuses are coming. But yeah, so I would say the first thing would just be, I'd be patient, man. You know, I learned to shut one eye, block one ear, talk through the side of my mouth, and just, that's the first thing that I do. You know? And that's what taking over the church.
I was going to ask you, Pastor, did you ever run into, like, people that were resilient because they don't want to connect with you?
Over the years, yeah, absolutely. When I first took over, there were people instantly that did not like me. And there were little cliques, little clubs like this guy. Yeah, watch out for him. We don't trust him. And nothing I could do to work with those people. I have, in times past, worked with other people that were like that, and they turned around. Unfortunately, after I left India, I had a situation in India. There was an anonymous letter that was written to me. Pastor Mitchell was copied it, Pastor Joe Campbell, Pastor Warner. You know, it's like, and it says, Pastor Ajala, I can see you, but you can't see me because God has hidden me from you. He says, I'm right in front of you, but you'll never know it's me. I mean, and they got this little group of rebels that were so against, but you didn't know who they were. They're like ghosts in the church. Can you imagine every time you're shaking someone's hand, is this the one? It might be him. But, you know, fast forward like 12, 13 years, I was preaching in Namibia. I was at a hotel. A guy turns up, he's a medical doctor. He has breakfast with me. Pastor said he wanted to meet with me, and he told me I was the man who sent those letters to you. I just wanted to apologize. I realized over the years, everything I thought was the truth. And I wanted to say, I'm sorry, he's repented, got his heart right. That's the only case I would say they got resolved. But all the others, they just fizzled out. I left the church. I've got one guy right now that was resilient all the way until when I left. He didn't really have any allies, but he was like a lone ranger against me. He had this vendetta. He's this, and those people, you just have to pray for them, love them, and leave them in the hands of Jesus. I remember one thing my pastor said to me when he was leaving. He says, Peter, he says, disciple those that want to be discipled and just love the rest. And he says, the discipleship can't be forced. You can't force it on people. People have to want to be discipled. You can't there's a willingness. Jesus looked for willing people. You know, take up your cross and follow me. Now, I can't. I've got too much. I can't do it. I can't do my
So now I know why you don't mention all the dark ages and the dark moments in your life, because I'm listening to him.
No, I don't, so that I have sermons to preach. Yeah.
So I'm listening to him and I'm like, wow, man, I'm freaking out. But at the same time, you mentioned the reference points and how important it is to have reference points in your life with discipleship, and to always hear certain things that your pastor may say and so forth. Because one reference point that I have from Pastor Stevens is always figure it out.
Yeah.
Just figure it out. Pray and figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, don't come to me with this nonsense. Figure it out. And that's something, whether it's small or big in my life, I just have to figure it out. And,
Yeah.
and it's very important. And you know, and everything that you said is that you just have to push through.
Yeah, that's right. You got to. And you know, the pastor knows what he means when he's telling you to figure it out. Because he already knows the answer, or he knows he can come up with the answer.
Right.
But he knows you can too. So I'm going to leave it with you. You do some thinking, do some praying, do some searching, and you'll figure this out. And when you do, you let him know. Because he wants us to develop.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to develop. I can't spoon feed you and hold your hand. You know, you gotta sometimes just cut loose, take the training wheels off, and learn to ride. But yeah, those are reference points. We never forget them. Those things, they're deeply embedded within us throughout our lives. And you constantly reach back to them when you're talking to your kids, your own disciples, when you're preaching and ministering in your own church. All those things, they just come back up. Very good. Yeah, anything else? Any questions you want to ask me personally, or, you know? We got 3 more minutes, folks.
Pastor, when you first started pioneering, did you have to work a job in London?
Yeah, I did. So when I transferred my company to UBS at the time, and so they said we don't transfer. It's our policy. We never do it. They tried to get me to stay. I said no. They tried to threaten me. They said, well, your kids are gonna starve. And I'm like, come on. When I left, they had to employ 2 men to cover my work. Because not one person could do the work. The volume I was covering. What I did, I would do 136 stops a day. So it was just too much for the company. So they were trying to keep me. And so they employed 2 guys, and they actually transferred me. So I was working part-time. I'd start work early in the morning, knock off around 12, and then go home, get some lunch, and then I'd start my work. I'd start visiting people. I'd do all my follow-up in the week, and then outreach on the weekend. That's how I structured it.
One more question. What would you say is the key to just bringing people in and growing your church?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is relationship. People respond to relationship. People, the honest truth is, people want to be loved. There's a lot of hate in the world today. A lot of fake and false relationships, broken promises, broken hearts. People are bruised. I mean, you look at the world. You know, the devil's been at work for a long time, since the Garden of Eden. He's brought such destruction in people's lives. People are in pain. And it's learning how to be a friend to people, learning how to love, reach out. One of the things that my wife and I did is we opened our home constantly for people. People would always come in, they would fellowship with us. We would meet people in parks, we would have little picnics, we did anything. And these people really care about us, and they bring other people. I'm telling you, we built our church in Bristol, other people brought other, they just kept bringing them, and you come, really, what's happening? I need to come to your church, and before you know it, they're there. And so we put our vision in the little people that we had, just had a few people, handful, and they started, and before you, it was like this domino effect. So I think that everyone needs to be loved. And I think the second thing is learning to be relevant, which is connected with that. And we know when you go into a town, a city, you have to feel what's happening there. What is the atmosphere like? What's charging this place? And then you have to tailor things to accommodate that. Whether it's certain sermons you're putting together, you know, if you realize that, you know, 75% of all marriages end in divorce in that part of town, that I'm gonna put some flyers out, fix your marriage, cement your marriage. I'm gonna pray and get ideas so that people who are married, they don't even have to be saved. I'm gonna have seminars and counseling sessions, and right there I start to throw the gospel in. I use it as a hook. Recently I started going fishing. Never really been fishing before, and I've learned so much about fishing. Fish cannot see you coming. So you need to know if I'm gonna catch a fish, the kind of bait that you use, the bait that other people are using, not being afraid to ask what bait people are, and reel those fish in. But remember, we're trying to fish, we're trying to bring them out, because if not, the shark is gonna get them. So I think being relevant, understanding what's happening in that city, that part of town, and really connecting well with people. So which means we have to empty ourselves of pride. Because it takes a lot of humility to stoop down to where people are at, to be able to reach down and pull them back up. But people need to be loved. I tell you, that's why I was saying about Paul Bolo, the Great White Hope. When he started pioneering, he started growing like overnight. Like he blinked and he had 20 people. It's like, I always said Paul could build a church in the desert because he loved people so much. Wherever you find a lover of people, Jesus loved people. People that nobody else loved, Jesus loved them. And the Pharisees, they were shocked at his attention to those kinds of people. The hurting, the bruised, not the superstars with all the money. Jesus, he would reach all kinds, but Jesus had a special place in his heart, a soft spot for all the hurting, the underdog. And I think if you do that, one of the things I did in Bristol, we hit this, again, like I said, I got so many stories, but we hit the Salvation Army. They had a little hostel. They had all these men, drug addicts and con men, and so we would go there every week and minister, concerts, little skits, and I would go there every Tuesday night and play ping pong with the guys, and we just, so many of them came without saved. It was incredible. The first thing I would do, gentlemen, if I went into a city, like if I get to Pioneer again right now, the first thing I would do is I would find out straight away where where the refugee camps are, migrants coming in, people who move from one country to another are open to change. They're a lot more open than others. I would hit that hard. I would hit the schools, the universities. I would see what openings are there, forums where I can minister. When I was in Namibia, I took advantage of universities. I would go in, I would have things like, sex, how far can you go? Sex and relationship, how far can you, and all these university kids with dreadlock, everyone's coming out. I'm ministering, preaching. I've got 2 pastors from that, from the university. So and again, there's so many other things, but lots of tools that we deploy to reach out to our communities. And you have the Bible. Because, God wants to give us, it's not like God is trying to hold it back. The clock is ticking. The world's about to end. The devil's devouring. God wants to give us revival. We have to step into it. So yeah, I know because of time, folks.
Praise God.
Sorry.
I just texted Pastor, and it's Pastor, powerful, inspirational, hopeful, and helpful.
Thank you.
Serious ministry. Wasn't it?
Yes.
As I said, guys, let's work with God. Father, we thank you.